One of the best ways to learn public speaking, apart from actually getting up there and speaking, is to break down the speeches of other great public speakers. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at Max Hawkin's TED Talk and breaking it down for you. Great public speakers make it look easy, and that's where I come in. If you're new here, my name is Megan. I have a decade of experience of international public speaking and helping others master the art of public speaking. So let's dive into this video. We're going to be covering 4 main topics here today. The first one is stage fright, nerves, how to overcome those nerves mid-presentation. Second, we're going to be looking at the power of storytelling. Third, we're going to be looking at humor and how it can help you to win over your audience. The last one, which may be the most important, and that is how mistakes can actually make your presentation and your speech better. So let's take a look.
I used to love waking up at exactly 7 a.m. When I lived in San Francisco, I would wake up right at 7 a.m. and immediately go to my favorite coffee shop. And it was my favorite coffee shop because it was the best coffee shop. I'd done the research. It was 5 stars. It was great. And I would drink my coffee and get onto my bicycle and ride into work. And I optimized my schedule to be perfect. I was constantly like shaving off 1 or 2 seconds, making it slightly faster so I could get into work faster. I was working as a software engineer at Google. And in a lot of ways, this was my dream job. It felt like this was the thing that the rest of my life was leading up towards. I'd always wanted to work in software, and I was finally doing it. And I was living in San Francisco, which is a city that I love, surrounded by people who were like me. And every part of my life was perfectly tailored to my interests, the things that I wanted to do.
Great opener here for Max with storytelling. We're going to touch more on this a little bit later, but did you hear the shortness of breath? Now, this happens for 2 main reasons. One, something's happened prior to you getting on the stage that you've had to run up there and you're actually just out of breath to start. Or second, and more likely, you're experiencing stage fright. And as that adrenaline kicks into the body, you are struggling to catch your breath. Let me know in the comments if this has ever happened to you. You might even start your presentation off strong with the first couple of sentences, and after that, you're struggling to gain breath. I'm going to give you some tips on how to solve this right now. So the first one is to pause. Use the power of the pause at an appropriate moment, but don't forget to breathe. Unfortunately, we see Max pause, but without taking sufficient breaths. He could have solved this a lot earlier. The second thing to do is to start engaging with the audience. So when he finished the story about choosing the coffee shop based on his preferences or because he researched that it's the best coffee shop, he could have just thrown out to the audience, raised his hand and said, how many of you do the same thing? And smile and nod and use that moment to breathe in and breathe out, because now I can pause longer because I'm using body language to communicate with you while I take some few deep breaths in to get my breathing under control. So that is a great technique. You need to get air and oxygen into the body to help calm the nerves. Right, let's continue.
I loved it. So one day I was at work and I started to read this paper, a computer science research paper about predictive analytics. And the gist of the paper was that if you take someone's GPS trace, like the listing of all the places that they've been in the past month or so, and you feed it into a machine learning algorithm, you can predict with fairly high accuracy.
Another aspect that demonstrates nervousness is the lip smacking. This is because he's experiencing dry mouth. It's another symptom of the increased adrenaline in the body and experiencing stage fright. Now, in a setup like a TED Talk, you may not have access to water, but if you are on stage at a conference, if you are giving a work presentation, you can have water with you, a glass of water or a small bottle, not a Stanley cup. That's not going to look professional, but a clear small bottle of water or a glass of water, it's absolutely okay to take a pause, have a sip, and keep talking. Because what happens over time is that this lip smacking becomes a bit of an earworm to the audience, and it becomes distracting. It also is the signaling the audience that you are nervous, along with the running out of breath. So you want to take control and take charge of the situation and deal with the nerves as quickly as possible. Nervousness happens to everybody. In fact, I would even go as far to say is that if you're not slightly nervous giving a presentation, you don't really care. And that's not a good space to deliver the best. You want to connect with your audience. You want to care about what you are saying. So you want to make sure to handle your nerves as quickly as possible. If you're getting value from this video so far, remember to smash the like button and consider subscribing. Let's get back to listening to Max.
And I started thinking about that algorithm again. And I started thinking, wait a second, isn't this bar exactly where that algorithm would guess that I was going to go this evening? And that was kind of weird. Because I thought that where was I in that? I know that I was the one making the choice, right? But how did the computer know about that? So that was a little disturbing. And since I'm an engineer, whenever...
So did you see there? He paused, he smiled when he said, "That's kind of weird," and immediately started speaking more confidently afterwards. Smiling not only relaxes the audience, but relaxes you as well. And it's a great way to help combat nerves mid-presentation. Okay, that's enough about nerves. Let's talk about storytelling. Storytelling is a phenomenal technique. It is a win-win for both the speaker and the audience members. We are hardwired for stories. It goes all the way back thousands of years. We like stories. They keep us engaged. Max does an incredible job of stringing stories together throughout this talk that illustrates an entire picture and one great idea. Stories can also help the speaker to calm their nerves because our brain organizes the story, especially if we're talking from our own experience. We know where we are going. It's not something canned or memorized that we're trying to say in a particular order. We know the story. And we know where the cliffhangers are because we lived them. We know where the ending is because we lived it. Stories are a phenomenal use here. In fact, you're going to see here in Max's talk that the cameraman filming the TED Talk actually starts to film the audience. They don't do this for every single TED Talk. Why? Because you can see that Max has won over his audience in this particular story. The story happens at around the 3-minute mark when you are going back to watch the replay. And he gets some laughs from the audience. They're captivated, they're interested in his story, and they can relate. Relatable stories help you to build connection with your audience, which immediately makes your talk, your speech, your presentation so much better. In this day and age, people are craving connection. This is the series. So if there is a speech you would like me to break down, comment below. Let's take a look at Max.
And so I texted Kelly and I said, we should do this. We met up and pressed the button, and suddenly, miraculously, there was an Uber driver at my apartment door. And so we got in and very quickly started heading to a part of San Francisco that neither of us really knew. It was a part of town that we just had never been in before. And when the driver told us we'd reached our destination, we thought it must have been a joke. We showed up in front of this austere brick building with a wrought iron fence in front of it and a sign that said the words, San Francisco General Hospital, Psychiatric Emergency Center.
And that brings us to the power of humor. Nobody was expecting that that was the location that they would end up in. And it completely breaks the ice from him at the beginning, struggling to catch his breath, sounding a little bit nervous. Now we're laughing. We had a couple of warm-up laughs leading up to this moment. Now we're connected. Now we see the magic behind the talk. So throughout this presentation, we've seen that Max started off nervous. Great storytelling ability. People are listening. Remember, they've given up their time to come to a TED Talk. They want to hear the great ideas. They want to learn from the speaker. And the same thing goes for people that come to listen to you speak. They want to gain benefit. They've given up their time to be there. They want to hear what you've got to say, and they're hoping that you're going to provide some kind of solution, some benefit, even if that benefit is just some humor and lighten up their day. So we've seen that. We've now also seen that through the storytelling, he's built connection, he's cracked the ice with some laughter, he has got the audience on his side, and then the big idea really comes through. And I want to encourage you again to actually watch the talk to solidify the learnings from this video. At the end, he decides to scrap his ending and make up a new one on the spot. Now, you'll hear him falter. You'll see the mistakes, but you'll also see how he overcomes it. I want to just put a disclaimer here. I do not recommend scrapping an ending last minute on the fly like this. However, I do recommend that you don't memorize an ending word for word, because it becomes canned. It doesn't seem natural, and it lacks authenticity and connection when we memorize scripts. When we know the point we want to make at the end and how we want to wrap it up, we want to simply talk about it. Let's take a look at how he does.
And so I had like a really tidy ending for this previously. And as I was coming up here, I decided to scrap it because I think that like a problem with TED Talks often is that they wrap up in a tidy bow, and then you can go away without really thinking about it. You can sort of just, it feels like everything is okay at the end. And I think in today's, like in the world that we're living in, there are a lot of real problems. And I think that.
Do you see there the engagement, the raise, the eyebrows, the intent, listening? The audience is fully bought in. You heard the faltering, the nerves. They want him to now succeed in this ending. Let's see how he delivers it.
These questions of algorithmic control play a lot into them. We're talking right now about the role that Facebook had in the American election. There are a lot of questions about the ways that these algorithms are controlling our lives. And so I don't know. I don't know what I'm saying, and I don't have like a very clear conclusion. But I would just encourage you to try to be experimental when it comes to interacting with these algorithms. Because if you just do the defaults, follow your preference, go in the direction that everything else is going, it's really easy to get caught in a place where you can be controlled. And yeah, I think that's it. Thank you.
Human connection. That's what happens when you make mistakes. We are all human. If you have shown that you are there to provide value, that you have sought to seek connection with your audience, if you make a mistake, it's okay, because your audience has bought in, they know you're giving value, and you see those women sitting up intently listening. They feel the connection. You hear the big round of applause at the end, despite a sort of soft, oh, and I think that's the end. You know, it wasn't the best, strong, solid ending, but it had a great purpose, and not wrapping it up in this neat little bow so that people think about it afterwards, and that would set him apart. But the main thing that he was able to achieve was a true connection with the audience, and that's what you gain when you make a mistake. It's all about how you handle it. When you make a mistake, do you go bright red, panic, oh, I made a mistake, or oh, the projector's not working, or oh, I said the wrong thing, and you actually say that out loud? The audience doesn't know what you have scripted. They don't know what you had planned to say. What they do know is the communication that you're giving in that moment. Are you seeking to provide them with benefits? Are you seeking to connect with them? Are you seeking to deliver the best that you can? And that's what connects you, and it's what makes us human. And it takes a presentation, talk, speech from being stale, canned and rehearsed, to being something that is impactful and long lasting. So don't sweat your mistakes. Thanks for watching. If you want to get more speech breakdowns, check out this playlist.